This is the 4th generation Lexus GS. This body style first came out for the 2012 model year, received the facelift in 2016, and is officially going to be discontinued as of August 2020. So that really sets the tone of this review. This car is dated. It hasn't really changed in 8 years. And with the crossover and SUV market exploding, the sedan market continually shrinks, and the Lexus GS is just another casualty. In this review, I want to share my personal likes and dislikes to see if this model really deserves to be discontinued. Let's start with pricing. This is the all-wheel drive model, and it is actually a couple $100s cheaper than the rear-wheel drive version. That's odd because the all-wheel drive typically comes at a premium. Now, I believe there's a very good reason for this, which I'll share later. The GS350 all-wheel drive just starts over $51,000, and this one, as equipped, is just a little bit over $58,000. And that's because it includes the all-weather package, the 19-inch wheels, the Mark Levinson premium surround sound system, the premium package, which includes the heated and ventilated front seats, and also the heated steering wheel option. So if you're shopping in the $50,000 to $60,000 price range, then you have a very nice selection of cars, including the BMW 5 Series, the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, the Audi A6, and also the Volvo S90, just to name a few. With that said, let's first start with the driving dynamics. I like the GS chassis a lot. I believe the Lexus GSF is one of the best cars you could buy from Lexus. That GSF comes equipped with a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 making 467 horsepower, and it rides on a very balanced and predictable chassis. It was great to drive on the road, and it was so much fun on the track. This GS350 has that same chassis, albeit it's missing the trick diff and also the very smart suspension. But driving on the road, this is such an absolute delight to drive. You can switch between the different driving modes as well. And here you have the Eco mode, normal, and also sport. And there's also a snow button in here because this is the all-wheel drive version after all. In normal mode, this is a rear biased all-wheel drive. It sends 70% of the torque to the rear wheels. But when the conditions are right, it splits that 50-50 between the front and rear axles. The next thing I like is the motor. This doesn't have that crazy 5-liter V8 found in the GSF. This has a 3.5-liter V6, naturally aspirated, making 311 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. And V6s typically sound pretty awful, but this one, it actually sounds pretty nice when you get it up in the revs. And some of that might be electronically faked, but who cares? It sounds good when I step on it. 0 to 60 gets done in 5.8 seconds. That's a bit slower than the rear-wheel drive version, which is 5.7 seconds. And then the 5-liter V8 GSF, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Now, what I don't like about the driving experience is this 6-speed automatic transmission. In a world of 8 and 10-speed automatic transmissions, this feels a little bit ancient. And I think this is the reason why the all-wheel drive model is cheaper than the rear-wheel drive, is because they have the older transmission in here. If you buy the rear-wheel drive version, you'll get the 8-speed automatic transmission. And those modern 8 to 10-speed automatic transmissions are so much more fuel efficient. They have a lot more moving parts, so make of that what you will. And the result of those higher speeds is better miles per gallon and better shifting performance. Now, it's not as quick as a dual clutch transmission, but this is both fast and also smooth. The 6-speed, on the other hand, it's not so great and it's not very fast. The paddle shifters are nice to have though, considering that the gear lever here looks fairly old. As for miles per gallon, this thing gets 19 city and 26 highway, and again, that has something to do with the limited number of gears. The other all-wheel drive luxury sedans like the 5 Series, the A6, and also the Volvo S90 beats the miles per gallon by at least 2. As for interior comfort, this GS350 here is top-notch, and that's to be expected. You get that Lexus grade commuting comfort in here. You're very insulated from the outside, there's good sound deadening, not a lot of wind noise. Yes, the engine sounds great at higher revs, but under normal driving, it's pretty serene in here. The seats are fantastic. The leather is great. The open pore wood in here is beautiful to look at. And all of the switchgear, the metallic knobs and all the door handles, they're really nice to the touch. There's plenty of creature comforts in here as well, like the ventilated and heated seats, heated steering wheel, which is an optional feature like I mentioned before. Moving on to the steering wheel, on the 9 o'clock side are the music controls, and on the 3 o'clock side are the instrument cluster controls and driving assistance. Speaking of driving assistance, this has radar adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and also blind spot monitoring system and rear cross traffic alert. So generally this is a nicely equipped vehicle, but for $50,000 to $60,000, some things could have been done better. Take, for example, this infotainment input system. Now, you can find this in what I call the old Lexus design. So you could find this also in the Lexus LX570. So if you're interested in my review of a $100,000 Lexus SUV, please click the link up here. This infotainment system works just fine when you're sitting stationary, but I find it tough and frustrating to use while driving. I think interfacing with infotainments in general is a tough thing to do because it's a distraction from driving, but there are different ways of accomplishing this task, and this method of input is just not it. The newer Lexus interior design, which you can find in the LC500, the LS500, and the UX200, have moved away from this. While those systems are still not optimal, I feel it's much better than this. Try it out, go for a test drive, because this might be a personal preference kind of thing. If you want to see how an infotainment input system done in a better way, check out my Acura RDX review. That has a touchpad that's a bit more unique and a screen and infotainment layout that makes more sense for driving. The interior design here is also looking a bit stale. Again, I ask you to check out my other reviews of the LC500, the LS500, and the UX200. Those interior designs are much more modern, much better looking, whereas in here, it feels like a car that you'd buy in the 2010s and not the 2020s. Adding to that stale and old look is the instrument cluster that hasn't changed. Go look at a new BMW 5 Series or an Audi A6 or the Mercedes-Benz E-Class. You don't even have to go luxury. Take a look at the Volkswagen Arteon's instrument cluster. If I want to spend $50,000 to $60,000 on a sedan, I want something that reflects the age that we're living in. Those other cars have fully digital instrument clusters which look beautiful. This, on the other hand, it just feels dated. It's got a small screen that's not too attractive to look at, but if you got the GS350 F Sport, they've got a pretty fancy digital instrument cluster that I really think you should take a look at. And just one more proof to show how this car looks dated, and I'm sorry Toyota and Lexus, but I have to call you out every time you do this. Take a look at the cruise control stalk. It has been around for ages. It can be found in the cheap Toyota 86, a fantastic sports car. And you can also find it in that $100,000 Lexus LX570. Perhaps this is a design signature of the Toyota and Lexus brand, and if you like how this is laid out, then this might be a positive for you. But given the premium feel of this car, this parts bin stock just doesn't feel or look right. I do like that there's this giant 12.3-inch screen in here. It looks beautiful. For the rest of the interior, the seats, like I mentioned before, are fantastic. They're highly adjustable. What I don't like about the driving position, though, is this hump nearby the transmission tunnel. I believe it's so you could rest your right leg against it during long drives, but I personally find it odd to have something there. The back seat is spacious. The midsize sedan might just be the car with perfect proportions. It's not too small or too big. You won't find people complaining about the legroom back here, and those high quality materials you find in the front are found back here as well. The leathers are really nice. And finally, around back, there's also a giant trunk with 18.4 cubic feet of storage. How about the exterior design? Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so you can judge for yourself whether this is attractive or not. I will say that the front end with the corporate hourglass face still looks fairly modern. Lexus has done clever things with the headlight design here to make a front fascia that is distinctively Lexus. You know the car behind you is a Lexus because of these unique LED daytime running lights. Combine it with a big hourglass grille and the design makes a really powerful presence on the road. The side profile, however, takes that powerful presence and strips it away of its energy. The doors lack important character lines and it just looks so bland and dated. It looks like something you'd find in a 2010 Toyota Camry. This car is in dire need of a redesign, and it makes perfect sense that it's going away. And maybe that's the appeal of the Lexus GS and why you should still buy one. If buying a first-year car is a bad idea because of all the reliability and teething issues, then theoretically buying the last year model car before it gets discontinued is the best idea, because all those reliability issues have been ironed out. And if you're looking for great deals, the last year model cars typically have great discounts as dealers try to clear the lot to replace it with next year's hot new models. And given that the sales of the GS sank by almost 50% in 2019 compared to 2018, 2020 might be a good year to buy the GS, all things considered. So overall, do I recommend buying the 2020 Lexus GS350 all-wheel drive? Absolutely. But only if the price is right, because at MSRP, I think there are better alternatives out there. So I hope you like the review. If you have any thoughts, please leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe and also hitting that notification bell so that you can get notified anytime we make a new video. Let's wrap it up right there. My name is Hanson. This has been the 2020 Lexus GS350 all-wheel drive, and I'll see you next time.